we'll keep recording these. And I was telling Scott before our one last week, we may not have had many people on it, but we did have a lot of people go back and watch on YouTube afterwards. So hopefully people are taking advantage of these opportunities to just get educated and improve as officials, or just learn everything as much as you can for your first season. So I'm going to turn it over to Scott here for this one. We're recording, so Scott will do a really good one. One of the big things I'll tell you: ask questions. You know, I said it last week. I say it every week. Ask questions. The way these work really well is when it's a discussion and a dialogue. You know, Scott's going to talk about stuff. We have Keith and Mike and some other veterans on here. They can share some information that'll, you know, everyone's slightly different, but I think ultimately everyone comes back to just how solid mechanics are. So, Scott, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Jay. Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me all right? Okay. First things first, if you're able to turn your camera on, turn it on. We're all friends here. I like to be able to see people and have discussions and get people's reactions and stuff like that. If you can't for whatever reason, that's fine. But I mean, there's 9 of us here. We're all friends. So the first thing I want to ask is, was there any questions from last week, or are there any outstanding questions that you've discovered over the past week on different subjects or anything like that? Anything anybody wants to go over before we get started with mechanics? Okay, so as Jay said, for those of you who don't know, my name's Scott Still. Thanks to the wonderful people at Facebook, a memory popped up on my timeline last week that it has been exactly, I've been doing, everybody always asks, you know, how long have you been doing this? Well, I've been doing it for 9 years and 1 week. My first game was a little over 9 years ago. Was down at Spooky Nook at an AAU tournament. That is baptism by fire. So hopefully, you know, hopefully we've had some different experiences out there, but I've got this far and don't plan on giving it up anytime soon. So, so tonight we're going to talk about mechanics. I think it's one of the probably 2 or 3 most important parts of the game. You know, there's knowing how to call a game, but then there's the communication aspect of the game. And I'm a firm believer that mechanics, you have to, hang on, there's people in the waiting room I have to let in. Okay. Okay, so without good mechanics, you're going to have doubts about yourself. Your crew might have doubts about you, coaches, fans. You know, if we're not good communicators using the tools that we're given, we're not going to be overly successful as referees. So one of the biggest things that I took to heart about mechanics, I was in a training about 5 years ago, and I was told as officials, we tell stories using our hands. Okay. There's going to be times where there's, you know, a couple thousand people in the gym and you make a call. Nobody hears you because half the people are mad at the call you just made. You know, especially if there's a, you know, a basket and a foul and the place is going nuts. They'll hear your whistle, but everything else they're not going to hear. You have to explain yourself using your mechanics. And that's a lot of what we're going to go over tonight. And that's what the really good officials do. You know, we use our voices when we have to, but we're using our signals at all points during the game. Your mechanics should speak louder than your voice does. There should be no doubt as to what call you have, as to you know, the number you're presenting, which way the ball's going, where the ball's being placed in bounds at. There should be no doubt about that because of the signals that you use. Like I said, there's going to be times where your voice can't be heard. That's where your mechanics are the most important thing. Leave no doubt in your calls. Yes, there's a lot of times we have bang bang plays and we have to make split seconds decisions. It's all parts of the job. Don't get caught up in loose mechanics at the wrong time. One of my favorite ones is when there's a foul and somebody gets hit, you know, and we'll go over this a little later. The mechanic is supposed to be arm out, chop down. Well, some people, when they do that, they go like this. This is an intentional foul. You don't want to mix those two up in any way, shape, or form. So we want to leave no doubt about what our calls are. Crisp, concise mechanics is what's going to make you successful in a game. Silent communications with your partner. You know, I've worked with Mike Brawner a lot. I've worked with Mike Schlip a lot. I've worked with Keith a whole lot. There's times where we go through games, and I worked with Keith a lot over the summer too. We might speak 2 or 3 sentences to each other the whole game, but we're constantly communicating. You know, whether it's eye contact, whether it's, you know, a subtle, you know, hey, we're under a minute, or how we're going to rotate or something like that. We're in constant communication, even though we're not talking. When you're in a, you know, when you're in a high school game or a JV game and you're 30, 40 feet apart on the court, you're not going to shout at each other. You have to use that unspoken communication as you go through the game. The last thing you want to have to do is shout at somebody while the play is going on. That's not going to go well at all. Okay. Control the game with your whistle. Explain the game with your mechanics. Okay. Before any mechanic is ever used, this must go in here, and there needs to be a sound that comes out of it. Okay. And I know that's one of the first things that officials are taught. If your arm goes up, doesn't matter if it's a violation, if it's a, you know, if it's a foul, got to put air in the whistle first. Okay. Control the game with this, and then we explain the game with these. All right. Anybody have any questions before we go on a little bit further here? All right. So first things first, we're literally going to start with the jump ball at the beginning of the game. Okay. The referee is always the one that is going to toss at the beginning of the game. In a 2-person game, which a lot of the newer officials will start out with, the umpire will be on the opposite side of the court. Okay, so the referee has the ball. You're both at the center court line. Okay. Referee's facing the table. The umpire's facing the referee. You're on opposite ends of the half court line. Referee comes in. There's a million versions of this you can do. Mine is, okay, you know, we got black this way, we got white this way. We're going to go one bouncing up. Before you throw the jump ball, it is in the rule book that you must hit your whistle. I know a number of people referee football, referee other sports where there's longer whistles. There is no such thing in basketball. This is the longest one you'll ever hear in basketball. Just a quick toot on it. That's it. We don't want it longer than probably about a half a second. We don't want a long drawn out whistle. It's a quick burst of air and that's it. Okay. So black, white. What I tell people is we'll go one bouncing up. I bounce the ball. I'm coming in, tossing it up. First thing you do after you call a foul, before the jump ball, anytime you have your whistle in your mouth and you blow it, get the whistle out of your mouth. Especially in a jump ball situation. You go up in there between 2 6'5" guys and you toss the ball up and you got that whistle in your mouth, it's real easy to catch an elbow right here. If you catch an elbow right here with one of these in your mouth, that's not going to go well for you, because this thing is going to break and then these things are going to break. You don't want that. Okay. blow your whistle, get it out of your mouth. And that, again, that goes for any time there's a violation, anytime there's a foul, because when you're going over your mechanics, when you're going through your mechanics, you want to speak them as well. Now, you're not going to speak them real loud, but you're going to hit your whistle, you're going to go up and you just travel other way, whistle back in your mouth. You don't want to try to talk with your whistle in your mouth. It doesn't go well. Okay. So referee goes up, tosses a ball. The umpire, you do not want to straddle the half court line. You want to be on one side of it or the other. I don't care which side you're on. Nobody does. Just make sure you're on one side or the other of the half court line. Not by a lot. It could be by, 2 feet. Just make sure you're not straddling half court. Okay. Also, the umpire is going to be responsible for chopping the clock. Again, these are also things we'll go over in other meetings. These are things we'll go over in our on-court presentation and meetings, but the umpire will have his arm straight up. Again, straight up, not like this, not like this, straight up. Ball's thrown up, the ball's tipped, chop the clock. Up, chop. The official scorer is going to be looking for you to chop the clock. You do that, game starts. Clock starts rolling. Okay. I'm not going to get into too many of the intricacies of, positioning and stuff like that tonight. Those are technically mechanics, but, these are going to be the ones we go over will be the ones that you'll want to put into, your daily game prep and routine a lot. So, foul call. We'll start with that. Again, anytime there's air that goes in this arm has to go up. Open hand is a violation. Fist, that's a foul. Okay? It's going to become second nature. Do it at the same time. Now, as you can see, my elbow's bent a little bit here. All right? Should be straight up. Fist, foul, open hand, violation. So, you have a foul call. It doesn't matter where it's at on the court. You're going to go through a process. Okay? So, you see the dribbler out top, tries to get past the defender. Defender's holding him or her. You're going to do 3 things. At that spot, whistle, preliminary signal. Okay. Got a hold on blue 21. And then we need to know what's going to happen after that. Are they shooting? Are they taking the ball out of bounds? What is happening as a result of you blowing your whistle? So a hold is not often going to be a shooting foul. So we're going up, hold, sideline. You're going to point to where the ball is going to be coming in bounds. Okay? So whistle, foul, mechanic for what happened, where it's coming in at. Okay. At that point, you're heading to the table. You jog to the table. You don't run, you don't walk. Slow jog to the table. Okay? When you get to the table, there is a rectangular area in front of the scorer's table that you can report from. It's called the reporting area, coincidentally. Okay? You don't want to be too close to the table. Does anybody know why you do not want to be too close to the table? Keith.
So that you're not within the coach's earshot.
Jeff, yes and no. You want the coach to be able to hear you, but you don't want the coach to be able to get a hold of you. Figuratively, not literally. The farther you are away from the table, the easier it is to explain the foul and to get where you need to be. You get too close to the table, because remember, it's a rectangle. You can be on either side of it. So conceivably, you could be 3 feet from the table and 3 feet from the coach. You don't want any part of that. Keith, is that what you were going to say? Okay. I'm normally wherever the table's at, I'm within the width of the table. But I can guarantee you I am probably always 10 feet away from it. I normally set up between the half court circle and the table, and I don't go any closer than that. Okay, so there was a foul on number 23. So we jog over to our place in the reporting area. All right. 4 things. I know you're thinking, oh my God, this is 7 things already I need to remember. It's habit forming. Okay. You should never use more than 10 words at the table. Okay. Less is more. When I first started, I would go up to the table and go, the foul is on. And somebody once told me, why are you here? And I said, well, I'm here to report the foul. He goes, okay, then don't say the foul is on. That's assumed. Good point. Color, number, infraction, spot, or shooting. Okay. So I've got a foul on blue, 23. Now remember, we're using 2 hands to report. We're not going blue 23. That went out 3 years ago. Okay. It's pre-COVID. We don't remember anything pre-COVID. Everything now is new. So blue 23. Dave, do you remember what number 23 did? No? Yes, Mike. Number 23 had a hold.
Right.
Okay. So I got blue 23 hold. Is that a shooting foul? No. So you're going to point to where the ball is coming in bounds. You do that in your preliminary. That's for the players. You do that at the table for everybody else. The table knows where the ball's coming in. The coaches know where the ball's coming in. And yes, we're doing some of this for the fans too. They know where it's coming in as well. Because when you get there, especially on a call that people aren't sure on, there could be 500 sets of eyes on you waiting to see what you have. And they will react thusly. That doesn't matter to us. I'll be honest. Sometimes the more riled up they are, I have to refrain from cracking a smile because I am there for it. It's my call, not theirs. And I'm going to explain it and they're going to get over it. Okay. So blue 23, hold, spot. Would that take about 5 seconds? Use as few words as possible. Get out of there. Okay. You don't want to linger. Now, there may be a case where the scorer goes, I'm sorry, who was that on again? You want to make sure that you don't give them an opportunity to say that. Because if you're looking and going blue, they might not be able to hear you. Okay, but again, tell the story with your hands. 23. I've seen people go up, blue, 11, hold. No. Be demonstrative in your mechanics. Red, 5, hit, 2 shots. Okay. Get through it. And again, it's repetition, it's practice. You want to get through it as efficiently as possible while still explaining everything. If you're there longer than 5 seconds, either you said too much or something went wrong. Okay. Trust me when I say the scoring table is appreciative of referees who clearly communicate things, because the last thing that scorer wants to do when you leave the table is hit the horn and go, who's that foul on? That's a bad look for everybody. Let's not give them the opportunity to do that. Okay, so color, number, infraction, spot, or shots. Okay, and again, get in, get out. We don't want to rush, but we're there for a specific purpose and we're going. Because the longer we're there, the longer the game action isn't going on. We're not, we're not the show. We're not here to hold things up. Report, okay, out. Any questions on fouls and reporting at the table?
Scott, can I jump in with a little bit?
Absolutely.
Make sure you set your feet, don't walk through it.
Great message by Keith. We don't walk and talk. We'll walk and talk with coaches, but when you're reporting a foul or you're reporting something to the table, you don't start doing any of this till you're stopped. Okay. I've seen guys, and I've seen males and females do the blow by where they just keep walking, to hit this way. No, stop, report, go. That's something I forgot to write down. That's why I always have Keith with me wherever I go. It's weird sometimes, but it works. Any other questions on anything? Comments, concerns? Okay. So that's how you report a foul.
And then when you turn, once you're done, you look for your partner to see where you're going.
Look at your partner to make sure that they're aware as well, right?
Know where you're going to go.
Yeah. Yeah. When you report the foul, you can say where the ball, where the ball's supposed to be. Make sure everybody else is where they're supposed to be too. Okay. Make sure you're clear to your partners. And that's during the preliminary signal, your partner should have a pretty good idea of what's going on. Now, there's been cases, and this has probably happened to all of us. There's been time my partner's blown a whistle and going to the table, and I'm thinking to myself, I have no idea what's coming here. None. So I react based on the information they give at the table. Okay. One other thing on this, be very sure you clearly communicate if there's shots. If there's 2 shots, you're going 2 to the table. Okay, that'll always be the last number you throw up. And then you're going to look at your partners. 2 or 1 and 1. There's no way to over communicate that, because if we're supposed to be shooting 2 and you give them a 1 and 1, that's going to come back on you. We'll go over correctable errors in another meeting. The best way to not have correctable errors is make sure you don't have them. Because the last thing you want to have to do is stop the clock, is stop everything at the next dead ball and go, hang on a minute. Not good. Definitely preventable. All right, so violations. Somebody drives up the floor and they just travel. They take, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. Quick whistle, arm straight up, hand out like this. Sorry, tuck your thumb in. Okay, travel. Go in this direction or this direction, wherever direction you're going. Please make sure you point in the right direction. So that is an excellent way to confuse people and get them more excited than they already are. Again, like Keith said, with violations, you're not going to the table to report a violation. Everybody sees it. Stop. Okay. If you have a travel, it's, I used to have a bad habit of literally walking as I was traveling. I'd up and I'd start moving my feet and go in the other direction when I was doing this. No, stop. You know you made the right call. Make sure everybody knows it too. Again, up to stop the clock, because the clock only stops when you hit your whistle. A ball could go careening into the crowd. Until you blow your whistle, the clock should not stop. The scorekeeper should be listening for your whistle and your arm. This is what stops everything. So your whistle, up, travel, you're going to point which direction they're going. Then you also want to point to where the inbound is at. You want to point to the spot where they're going to be inbounding the ball. Again, it might seem like a lot. All that's going to take less than 5 seconds. Like I mentioned at the beginning, same thing with this. Whistle comes out of your mouth because you're going to be talking, not loudly, but oh, travel, putting it in here. Anybody with questions on the procedure for a violation?
Yeah, Scott, I got a question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I got some feedback this summer on a traveling call and in, the whole everyone wants to avoid being the crossing guard. So the feedback I got was to, do my signals, travel, point to the spot, and then the opposite direction. And I thought that sounded backwards because as soon as I point a direction, people think that's where the ball's going.
Yep.
So, that was one I kind of filed away to maybe not adopt, but I wanted to verify that we're always doing the spot as the last thing.
The last thing you want to do is point to the spot before pointing which direction the ball is going, because think of it this way. If I'm calling a travel and it's on the opposite side of the court,
right?
Like I'm almost at the half court line and the travel's on the other half or the other side of the half court line.
Right.
If I'm going like this and then pointing straight, well,
yeah.
I mean, they should know which way it's going. And yeah, it can, but that's why it's important to be crisp.
Right.
Okay. Up, travel, here.
Spot. Cool.
Yes. Good question. All right. So this is the part in the festivities where we're going to go over the proper way to signal various foul calls and violations. We should be getting our rule books for the 22-23 season at the interpretation meeting in about a month. Normally the first meeting they have the rule book and the case book for us. There's a list of every PIAA NFHS approved mechanic in this rule book. Okay. Now, are some of them easy to decipher? Because I mean, it's in a book. So you'll have like an arm here and then you'll see like the arm go like this and like the dotted lines to go back. No, that's why we do this meeting. It's a little bit easier this way. So, all right. So the first call will be a block. Okay. Should be the only call where you have to see my waist. So I'm just going to step back here for a minute. All right. So for a block, again, whistle, block, spot, or block, 2 shots. A block is the same as offsides in football. Now, I enjoy watching college basketball as much as anybody. Okay. I don't ever want to see anybody come in for a block and have somebody go like this, up. No, we're not coming down with our fists or anything like that. That's exaggerated. That's for ESPN on a Monday night, not for Blue Ridge 11 on a Tuesday night at Cocalico. All right. It's the simple, it's the offsides in football. Okay. And then you're going 2 shots or the spot. Okay. Somebody goes in up on a basket, they get hit. Shooting foul. Okay. Whistle, arm up, fist, foul. I don't care if you do it with your left arm or your right arm, depending if you're left or right-handed, but straight arm, come across. Okay. Keep it away, keep that foul away from your body. Because that's one where people go like this and the coach is like, what do you mean an intentional foul? And I've seen people have to go, no, it's just a regular foul. Get it out here. And I am a stickler for that because it happened to me. So up, hit, 2. 3-point signal. 2 parts to it. There's a preliminary signal. Okay, 3-pointers up. I don't care if you use these 3 fingers. I find that a lot easier to use these 3. Okay, shot goes up, 3. Shot goes in, touchdown. Very simple. Do not hold your 3-point sign as you're running back down the court. You should only have to have that up for a couple seconds. If you find yourself holding that up and you're beyond half court, you drop your arms. Most times for a 3-point signal, we're just confirming what everybody else already knows. There's some people now who pull up from 5 feet behind the line. We're confirmation. Everybody in the gym can see that they took that shot from 25 feet away. If it doesn't go in, okay, 3 up, doesn't go in, drop your arms. Just make sure it's crisp. All right, what are some other ones? Offensive foul. Back of the head, point the opposite direction. Okay. It can be clunky at times. Do whatever's most comfortable for you. Okay. I've seen a lot of people, they do it at the same time. It's up, back, and it's one of these. That's not the official mechanic. I've never seen anybody have a problem with it. So whichever way you want to do it is fine. I have no issues with that. But in the book, it's up, back, point. Okay. Player control foul. Or pardon me, team control foul. That was a player control foul. You will never hear offensive foul. Okay, this is part of our lexicon. You know, we don't have baselines, we have end lines. It's not a, it's not a charge, it's a player control foul. Okay, this is a lot of the things that fans will be yelling for something. You will hear this year 375 times fans yell, "He's riding him, ref." Here's the rule book. Find the word riding in there, please. Just please do. Okay. Oh, that's over the back. It's over the back. The words over the back do not appear in the rule book. Okay. If you have somebody go over the back, it's a push. Because what are they doing with their body? They are pushing the offensive or defensive player, depending on who has the rebounding position. Okay. Never call over the back. When I started, I'm not perfect by any means these days. I was a lot less perfect back then. Something I always heard in basketball, because it was said by announcers, "Oh, that's up and down." No, that's not up and down. That's just a travel. Okay. Or if a player dribbles, picks up, and you'll see this, they'll just lose their mind for a brief second. Dribble, both hands, dribble. It's a double dribble. Very easy signal on that one. There is no such thing as up and down. I had one of my partners call one of those one game and a halftime. I said, "Get rid of that. That's not a thing." So, player control foul. This team control. I'm not here to set bad habits, but just in case you see it at all, a team control foul used to be up, fist, up, close fist, going the other direction. Okay, close fist that way. Not a punch, just up, out. That one's gone. Team control foul, which is most popularly an illegal screen. You'll see a ton of those. Okay. That is also fist, back of the head, point. They're both the same now. Now, they did get conflated a lot, which is probably why the NFHS said, let's take this one out and make them both the same. Now, the fun part about that, if you have a player control foul or a charge, okay, you're going to go to the table. All right, I got black, 3, player control. Easy. When you go to the table and there's an illegal screen or a team control foul, you can give a really quick explanation of what it was. Okay. I got green, 5, illegal screen. Don't say moving screen, because moving screens are not always illegal screens. Because especially at the younger ages, I've seen 5th grade kids chase each other all over the court trying to set an illegal screen. They just never get to the player. Like, it would be the worst illegal screen I've ever seen. They just never get there. I often have coaches say, wasn't that an illegal screen? I say, coach, if there were contact, it would have been. There was no contact. Well, the player was moving. Yes, everybody's moving. If there's no contact, I have nothing to call. So don't use moving, use illegal. Because it's only illegal if they make contact. Everybody's moving. You see what I mean by that one? We've got the travel, we've got the double dribble, a carry. Schlip, what's the signal for a carry?
I'm sorry, Scott, I wasn't paying attention. What'd you say?
That's it. What's the signal for a carry?
Oh,
Exactly. Whistle, arm up. In this day and age, much like holding in football, you could probably call a carry on almost every possession, because it's almost built into the game anymore. I'm not saying it's right. I am saying it's the way it is. Okay. So, but again, carry up. Same thing for palming. If you can call it a carry, you can call it palming. Either one's fine, but up, signal, point the other direction. All right, what else do we have? There aren't a ton that you're going to see in every single game. Basic one, out of bounds. You're gonna do 2 things. Up with the whistle, point, nothing else. Up, point. Very simple, very crisp, up and point. Now, if there's 30 seconds left in a tie game and the back of somebody's heel grazes the line, yeah, I might come up, hit my whistle, come up and go, and I'll come in and point right to where it was at, just for emphasis on it. Okay. In a 30-point game, I'm not doing that. Up, the common ones, up, out. You should only be saying one word with that. The color of the team the ball's going to. The quickest way to confuse somebody is to go up and go off blue, green. And then you're like, you get to here and you're thinking, which way am I pointing? Now, okay. Black, done, quick. We want to get things done as quickly as possible. Again, because when we hit this, the clock stops. Okay, up, out. Some of the fun ones. So we'll go over the technical foul procedure. Hopefully we will not have too many of these, but it absolutely does happen. So let's say we're in a dead ball situation. Okay. And if it's a dead ball and players start drawing or whatever, push somebody, the only thing you can call is a technical foul because the ball is dead. You have no other recourse in that. You can't call an intentional or flagrant because the ball's dead, which again, another reason why we want to keep things moving and have the clock moving. Okay. So there's a skirmish, somebody calls somebody else a really bad name. Okay. And you're like, okay, I've had it. It's a violation, not a foul, even though it's literally a technical foul. We're going up with a violation to stop the clock. Okay. It's T. Okay. It's another one it's important to be demonstrative in your mechanics with, because you don't want to, go like this, like you're trying to hide it or, not make, I've seen no signals at all. And then they go over and announce a technical foul. I'm like, no, that's the preliminary signal on the spot has got to be this. Now, again, speaking from experience, do not do that. My second or third year, I was pissed at a coach. Like I couldn't take it anymore. I teed him up. I almost broke the tip of this finger because I did it so hard. Do you know what that benefited? The coach, because he's probably like, look at that moron. Very simple. Up, T, and then you want to point to the person, to the offending party. If it's a coach, point him out. If it's a player, point him out so everybody knows. Okay. Then you're going to go over to the table, prepare yourself, because again, depending on which school you're at, the table will normally be fine. The people behind the table and beside the table, probably not. Okay. So, and it's very simple. I've got a technical foul on, we'll say it's a player, on blue 5. You still want to give your numbers. Okay. But it's technical foul, blue 5. Okay. Does anybody know how many foul shots we get on a technical foul? Yes. Technical foul, always 2 shots. So technical foul, blue 5, 2 shots. Soon as you do that, whether this is 2-person or 3-person, get away from the table. You do not want to be there. Okay. If a coach has your ear in a 2-person game and you back away from the table, which you absolutely should be doing, that coach has 2 ways to communicate with you at that point. Scream at you or come on the court. The best way for a coach to have to watch the game on TV is to do either of those things. Okay. You do not want to be the person to give both technical fouls. That's more for another discussion. But when you report that technical, get out. In a 3-person game, the official that's across the court will come and replace you in a heartbeat. Then the coach will have that referee's ear. In a 2-person game, just get away. Okay.
God, can I jump in for a second?
Absolutely.
If your partner gives a technical, it doesn't hurt to take 2 seconds, go over and talk to him, make sure he knows what he has, without taking your eyes off the players. But just get over to him, just say, hey, what do you got there? Just give him them 2 seconds to calm down. I've been doing this 28 years, and every technical I've given, I've been fired up. So those 2 seconds to just take a breath and calm down before you go to the table aren't necessarily a bad thing.
That's a great point by Keith. We don't give technicals for no reason. I would say that Keith and I are probably on the lower end of technical givers, but if you're getting one from us, you've absolutely earned it. And yeah, more often, more times than not, it's a coach. And I don't say the head coach, I say a coach, because the assistants a lot of times talk even more than the head coach. And if you want to shut everybody up, give an assistant a technical, because that will cause the head coach to lose their mind on the assistant. Because when the assistant gets a technical, guess what? Is that head coach allowed to stand anymore? No. So you just cost him or her their rights to stand and coach their team. I'm not saying do it, but I am saying if it's earned, assistant coaches are meant to be seen and not heard. When they start being heard, that's a problem. But yeah, great point by Keith. Make sure your partners know what you have. And in that 3 seconds it takes you to get to your partner, and then another 4 seconds to get to the table, you're breathing a little bit better. Your heart rate is returning to a healthy rate. But yeah, you're going to report, you're going to get away from the table. All tech, go ahead.
Sorry, when you say get away from the table, in 3-man makes sense, you kind of switch with the opposite. In 2-man, would you say go administer the free throws, or just go to the opposite side of the court where you're gonna throw the ball in?
You're probably going to go administer the free throws.
Okay.
I mean, you can work it out. I mean, if it's easier for you just to back away, and then the official administering the free throws just goes to the other side, either way is fine. Just as long as the ref who is giving the technical gets away from the table.
All right.
Because the longer you hang around there, the worse it's going to be for everybody.
So, I mean, I would say if I were to do it and I was in a 2-man game, I would probably just go over to the division line where we're going to inbound the ball, and then
it might be odd for a second or two, but they're
Right.
administering free throws with nobody on the line, on the
Right.
lane spaces. So
Okay,
yeah, not a huge deal.
got it.
Hang on, Scott. And that's something you talk about in your pregame. In the pregame, we'll say, if it's technical, easy, everyone knows it's technical, we'll just get it and go. If it's a contested technical, we're going to get out of the way. And even if it's an easy technical, at that time, do not try and explain it to the coach, because nothing but bad's going to happen. You get a stoppage a little later, and you want to say, Coach, this is what I had. You might be able to get away with it, but at that time, you might be thinking that was an easy technical, and the coach doesn't see it that way, and you're just going to get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, what is easy for us a lot of times isn't easy for the coach, the bench personnel, the player, whoever it's on. So that's why it's best to get away. And if somebody needs to chew on an ear, they're going to be chewing on a quote unquote neutral party, because that other official will not be the one who just gave the technical out. And I've been in those situations, and a lot of time I'm just saying to myself, all right, I'm going to give them 5 or 10 seconds to get frustration out, and then we're moving on. Because guess what? It's not changing. You call a travel and we're heading down the other end of the court, they can yell and scream and everything. I've often said I've had this discussion with coaches. This call's not changing. We can rehash this the next 3 or 4 times down the court, or we can move on. It's up to you, but we're not going to live in the past. Flagrant intentional fouls, flagrant or intentional fouls. Okay. Now, little difference. You're going to use the fist for this one. Okay. So up, out, make an X. Okay. Again, why it's important for your hits on fouls to be out here and not across here. You're going to go to the table. Okay, I have an intentional foul. White, 3, 2 shots. Okay. Your best examples of intentional fouls. One I've seen a lot is there's a fast break, and a guy just reaches from behind and wraps up the player, because that's the only chance they have. That's an easy one. If there's a breakaway and there's any sort of jersey grab from behind, automatic. Okay, it is their intent to slow the player down and obstruct them from getting the ball, which is the literal definition of an intentional foul. Okay. Flagrant fouls, you got to be careful on, because now you're getting into ejection territory. Okay. Flagrant foul, somebody's driving to the hoop and catches an elbow in the head. Well, that might be a problem. And that depends on the severity of the infraction. Again, I'm here to explain mechanics, not, we'll go over more stuff like that later. But the intentional foul, this, 2 shots, only difference afterwards. Technical foul throw in is opposite the table, center court line. Intentional foul goes to wherever the closest to the spot of the infraction was. So you could conceivably shoot 2 foul shots at one end and the ball comes back in the other corner at the other end of the court. Just depends where it happened. Okay. All right. I got about 8 minutes left here. I'm definitely not taking you past 8. There's,
Can I ask a question? Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't want to
no, you're good.
keep asking questions, but in the event of a flagrant, like how does that reporting look differently at the table?
There's really the mechanics the same.
And then you just say it was a flagrant. I mean,
well, if there was a flagrant foul, I'm going to the table and going, okay, I have a flagrant foul on white 10. If it's a flagrant foul, everybody in the gym is going to know what happened.
Right.
Because somebody's either going to get laid out or it's going to be obvious, but you're just flagrant foul, white 10, 2 shots. Now, if it gets to the point of an ejection, you're going, I have a flagrant foul, white 10, he's been disqualified. Okay, we don't use ejected. You should use he's been disqualified. Okay.
And a flagrant's an automatic disqualification.
Correct. That's something where we also need to inform the coach as well. And there's also, when a player fouls out. Okay, so you're going to go, I've got gray 15 with a block. We're going to shoot 2. What'll happen is one of 2 things. The table will either look at you and go, that's 5, or they'll hit a horn and notify you that it's 5. Okay. So Keith, I want you to fact check me on this. It's head coach, player, start the clock. Am I right on that?
Yes.
Okay. So 3 things. If there's a disqualification for achieving 5 fouls, okay, you're going to confirm, the table's going to go, it's 5. And I always, even though they're just saying, I'm like, all right, we got 5 on 15. Okay. Coach, it's 5 fouls. Then I'm looking at, a lot of times they're already heading off the court. At that point, just stop because it's already taking care of itself. If not, coach, 5 fouls. I'm looking for the player. 15, that's 5. Then I'm looking at the scores table. I'm going, start the clock. They have 15 seconds to get a substitute. A lot of coaches will use that as a timeout, whatever. No, when we go start the clock, they've got 15 seconds. If they don't have a sub in that 15 seconds, they're going to have it in 16, because then you're looking at delay of game territory, which again could be a technical foul. And we don't want to keep compounding the mistakes that they're making.
And again, pregame that as to if it's a difficult 5th foul, there's nothing wrong with going to get your partner and say, hey, we got 5 fouls on him, make sure the coach is aware and get yourself out of that instead of going into the bee's nest and getting screamed at, let your partner handle that and move on that way. But
yeah,
if it's a no-brainer, no doubt about it, 5th foul, everyone saw it, and it's just boom, we'll get moving, just take it. But if it's a tough call and, call that needed to be made, that you think you're going to catch hell for, let your partner handle it and get out of there to ease the situation a little bit.
With the amount of coaches that most teams have these days, if they don't know it's 5 fouls, somebody dropped the ball. Because they literally keep track of everything. But like Keith said, if it's a block charge and it's right on the edge and that calls that 5th foul, you might want to report that foul and head down to the other end and let one of your partners come in and take that.
And as officials, part of our responsibility is knowing who has 4 fouls. Because they're 5th, they're going to earn it. You know, if I got a foul inside and I know their big man has 4, guess what? If he fouled him, it's the guy beside him. You know, that's how I call my game. You know, I'm going to make sure that 5th foul, everyone knows it's a 5th foul for him to pick it up. Same as in the first half. You know, their star player has 2 fouls against him. He's going to earn his 3rd. I'm not going to give him a ticky tack. So catalog calls and catalog fouls, and just have that in the back of your head.
Can't agree more. We don't want to put ourselves in a position to decide the game. That being said, there are times that they take it out of our hands. But yeah, if a star player has 4 fouls in the second half of a hotly contested game, he or she's going to have to do something to get that 5th. Okay. Anybody got any questions on anything that went over tonight? Questions about anything else you might have been wondering about? Did I throw too much at you, or are we progressing at a good pace?
Scott, on your,
Hey, Scott,
sorry, go ahead.
Brent, go ahead.
sorry. For the 3-point mechanic for the initial signal, is it correct that your arm is at an angle somewhat, and then if it's good, it's straight up with both arms?
Well, my arm is at an angle mostly right now, because if I extend it all the way up, you'll lose it. Normally my arm for the preliminary 3-point call is a little bit above my head. Okay. And then what I do is I basically mirror the other hand if it goes in. So basically I'm like this, goes in, I'm going like this. I used to put my arms straight up, which is what by the letter of the law, that's what you're supposed to do. I find it looks weird on me, probably because I have long arms. Like I looked at myself doing it one time. I'm like, oh God, that's awful. So I shortened mine up a little bit. I'm here, and we're moving on. Just make sure your arms are above your head. But yeah, the straight out, that can look, I mean, it looks a little silly. Did that answer your question, Nathan?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good.
So Scott, on your technical and your intentional, you gave the infraction and then the color number. Is that by design or just preference or habit?
Letter of the law.
Okay.
You always want the way I do it. And if there's I mean, you can go, blue 5 technical foul. I always come in with that first, whether it's technical or flagrant. The more I think about it, it might be reversed in the rule book, but that's one that nobody is ever going to call anything out on. If I have something like that, I'm coming out with that first to eliminate any guesswork, even though it's only a couple seconds.
Right. Okay.
I'm the same way, Scott. I do technical foul, blue 5.
Yep. Yeah. Everything else is, you're given, you're going color, number, infraction, but you want to come out right away to, I've got a technical foul, white 4, we're going to shoot 2.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else got anything? All right. Well, thank you very much for your time tonight. It's 8:01, so we just about nailed it on the head. Anybody has any questions about anything, don't be afraid to reach out to me, reach out to Keith, reach out to somebody on the committee. We're here to help. We'll go through a lot more of these in depth at the training session on the 22nd, I believe it is, the morning at Cedar Crest. So nobody else has anything. Have a great night, and we'll see a lot of you back here next week.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.